What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be talking about the secret to drum bounce and how to get professional drum bounce on every single beat you start making from here on forward. So if you're ready, let's get right into it. Alright guys, so we're going to be demonstrating and showing you how to do the drum bounce on this beat that I recently made. So let's give a quick listen to it so you guys can get the hang of what's going on. Okay guys, so the first thing is velocity. Guys, you got to be changing up the velocity on your different drum sounds. If you have the same velocity going the whole time, it doesn't really distinguish one hit from another, so it sounds like it's the same thing getting played the same way with the same intensity every single time. It's going to make it sound robotic, so you want it to be humanistic. So I use velocity on almost all of my drums. I think the only ones that I don't use it for are the kick and 808, because for those two, the velocities are pretty much cranked up all the way. I want those bad boys to hit. Okay, so let's take a look at these hi-hats right here. You can see it's not too crazy, but they're definitely, some are a little bit lower, some are higher. They're not all the same right away. And there wasn't really much going on with that hi-hat anyways. Here's a couple more. Just a little bit of variations here or there, but even a little bit like this can literally make the biggest difference in the end. So also the shaker is going to be another really good one where velocity is going to come in hand. So a good thing to keep in mind is when you have midis that are playing constantly in a row, like hi-hats, shakers, things like that, that are playing really quickly and almost constantly throughout the whole beat, those are the things that are going to be most beneficial from adding the velocity changes. Okay, so as you can see, when we look at this shaker, everything is off the grid. So that's going to bring us to our point number 2, is go ahead and play things off the grid. So these aren't straight on the grid. As you can see, they're quite a bit off. I mean, it's pretty noticeable. So let's actually solo this, and then we'll put on the metronome. So you can just tell that that's way off. It's literally on its own time spectrum, it sounds like. So having things playing off the grid like that can really give it a crazy drum bounce. So for this one in particular, I actually made sure every single drum that I had is off beat. So even that kick in 808, listen to this kick. Sounds crazy when you hear it just with the metronome, but when you hear everything together, it sounds completely normal. That metronome, the metronome just sounds like it's off at that point. Another really good thing for drum bounce is using samples that are kind of off a little bit. So for instance, I believe this percussion here, it doesn't really start hitting the transients until partway through the sample. So at first it's going to sound like nothing's playing, and that little bit of lag at the beginning there is actually going to create some drag to it. I believe the shaker's like that too. Yeah, as you can see with this shaker, it's got a little bit of a head on it before the actual note plays. So instead of grabbing this and dragging it all the way to the beginning like that, if you just leave it how it is, that's going to give it some drag and some pull to it because it's automatically off the grid just because of that. So samples like that, which you'll find in all kinds of different drum sounds and drum kits, they can be really helpful when you're trying to get some bounce and swing to your beats. Okay, another secret to having amazing drum bounce that I see a lot of people not doing, especially beginners, is having things hit on the same notes, right? So maybe the snare's hitting at the same time as the kick and an open hi-hat's playing at the same time as well. Well, when you do that, it starts to muddy things up and you're not really sure what to listen to at that point. So actually spacing things out can be really helpful. So if you have things that are playing on top of each other, maybe cut something out and let one thing shine and then have the other thing come back in afterwards. So if you take a look here, you can see with this hi-hat MIDI that I had, I actually cut out some of the hi-hat notes that were playing so I could allow this hi-hat right here, this wave hi-hat, play in that spot. So there's nothing playing in between there. So that these weren't intersecting and overlaying on top of each other. It's going to let this one shine by itself. So this is a really good example of that because you can hear how everything has its own turn to play. You can hear the kick go, then the open hi-hat, then the perk. Okay, another secret trick that I do every single time, and that's also super important to your drum bounce, is just panning your instruments different ways. So as you can see here, this is like my little panning bar, and every single one is a little bit different. Some are panned to the right, some are farther to the right and not as far, some are panned to the left, same deal. And every once in a while, I like to put a rotating perk or something like that in here. So I believe actually the shaker has it on this one. So I use this pancake right here, which auto pans it to the left and right. So if I turn this all the way up, you'd hear it a lot better. And it helps fill in the gap. It helps fill in the room of the atmosphere that you're making with your drums. Okay guys, and the last trick is just using effects like reverbs, for example. When you throw a reverb on a sample, it's going to give it a little bit of a tail. It's going to overlap into the next set of drums or whatever that's playing afterwards. So using effects like that can really be beneficial. I love to use reverb on open hi-hats. I use them all the time, and I usually just use, really short decay time, a little bit of mix, nothing too crazy, and that's what I do for almost all my open hi-hats. Also, delays and echoes can also be two really good ones besides reverb to help add bounce to your drums. Okay guys, so those are all the tips that I have for making sure that you get the best drum bounce every single time, but now I want to share with you a hack, a super duper hack, which will pretty much cross off this whole entire list except for maybe a couple of the last ones, just by doing this one thing. And it's super simple. It's either using your keyboard or a MIDI device to trigger your drums. Once you start getting in the habit of fingering in your own, excuse me with the language there, fingering in your own drums, once you're able to do that, you're going to get a lot of things automatically. It's going to capture the velocity. It's going to capture anything being played off the grid. It's going to capture that spacing. And it's also going to capture your vibe that you have going on in your head. When you're making a beat and you're rocking your head and stuff like that, you already have a rhythm developed. And once you have a MIDI or something that you can tap on while you're in that rhythm, it's going to come to you automatically. It's going to come to you naturally instead of trying to click everything in and fake the rhythm. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. If you're new, make sure to subscribe to the channel because we're uploading awesome tutorials like this all the dang time that you're not going to want to miss out on. Also, smash this like button for me so we can get a lot more producers to see this and step up their drum swing and bounce game as well. Anyways, guys, that is it, and I'll be catching you all again in the next one. Peace out.